Hello. Let me start with a personal reflection and the reason why you hear me now. As you all have seen recently, the devastating floods in Hyderabad. I come from Hyderabad, the city in India, and it was heartbreaking to see the devastation, the loss of life, the loss of livelihood that those floods triggered. And sitting far away in the United Nations Climate Change Organization, which I work, I felt very helpless to see that devastation in a city that I know so closely and close to my heart, and to see the devastation. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to convey a brief message to the community through the TEDx Countdown, for which I'd like to thank the organizers, Rajiv Gupta and others who have reached out to us to share our perspective in addressing climate change. So with that as a backdrop, we are also living through a very challenging period due to coronavirus in many parts of the world, and which has devastated many of us in many different ways. But we cannot forget that climate change is the biggest threat facing all of us, the humanity, over the long term. While COVID-19 will have a vaccine, a treatment, in the foreseeable future, we hope, climate change will not have a vaccine. And we need to ensure that we do everything we can to address the impacts of climate change and not to let something similar to what we recently saw in Hyderabad happen to other cities around the world. So in order to do that, we need to build forward, to build the cities, the communities that are safe, healthy, green, and sustainable. We need to build forward and not to go back to the drawing board. The world has already agreed on a framework for action, and in the United Nations we refer to that as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and more specifically, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. As we jointly address COVID-19 globally and take decisive action based on scientific advice, the same needs to happen for climate change. The young people have understood how urgently we need to act, the experience of climate change every day. And I'm very pleased to see many young climate activists and leaders who are working on this and who are also on the panel for this particular TEDx event. We saw a lot of climate records again this year. India has experienced a massive heat wave, its strongest recorded cyclone, thunderstorms, bringing huge hailstones and floods. In June, all devouring locust swarms, the worst in 25 years, left the land scared. Let us try to imagine all the benefits we would reach if we address climate change in a convinced, responsible, and a serious manner. Health benefits and reducing public health expenditures, cleaner air, more livable cities, improved food security, and protection of biodiversity. Also thanks to nature-based solutions like the impressive work of afforestation by People Baba. And we really would like to thank him for that. In addressing climate change, we also know that governments cannot solve the climate change on their own. We need leadership at all levels, including public and private sector, regions, cities, and the smallest communities. Building cleaner, greener, more climate-friendly and sustainable cities and communities should be our guiding principles for the future. And to do that, we also need the businesses, the business leadership. Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric, said, "Change before you have to. This used to apply to adapting to changing markets, and it still does, but it has taken on a whole new meaning this year. Business as usual is an investment plan in failure over the long term. Businesses that don't take steps now to align their work with global climate change goals will soon be out of business. Again, change before you have to. I would like to encourage everyone, the industries, the businesses, and many others to join something we refer to as Race to Zero campaign. Do look at our website of UNFCCC and you will find a lot of information about that. It's an unprecedented global campaign to rally leadership and support from businesses, cities, regions, investors for a healthy and resilient zero carbon recovery that prevents future threats. This creates decent jobs and unlocks inclusive and sustainable growth. And for that, we need a leap of faith. But don't despair. Millions of others throughout the world are dedicated to building a clean, green, healthy, sustainable, and just planet. We are not alone in this. Let's also emphasize the good. History is filled with people and organizations that work together to make things better. Just look at polio, for instance, which was just eradicated everywhere in the world, including in Africa. Or the efforts to heal the ozone layer. That's what should fuel our hope. Collaboration and progress, even if slow, is a fertile bed where hope can grow. It's important to celebrate. For example, we in the United Nations, we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. Let's celebrate this courageous global act of working together for so long in a multilateral effort to address the global challenges. And my last and final point is, anything that you can do to reduce your carbon footprint is important. This includes things like we have heard, such as using sustainable transport, buying sustainable clothes, adopting to a climate-friendly diet, or having more energy-efficient appliances. Advertisers and businesses desperately want our money. This gives us power, no matter how small that is. Make it known you will only buy products that are sustainable or produced in ways that don't run contrary to the climate change. We should use our money in a climate-friendly way. With that, I would like to close, and I sincerely would like to thank TEDx and all the organizers, especially Mr. Gupta, and encourage all listeners to do their part and be on the right side of history. We can do that. Thank you very much.